Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a great time to spend with you, talking about project and proposal writing, NGO management, and everything related to development of projects related to NGOs. So this is my nice time, and I hope you are really enjoying your time. Let's hope that we spend a nice hour, because for sure we are talking about the logical framework today. Today is session 7, and we are supposed to talk about logical framework and beneficiaries, because logical framework is huge, and in terms of a lot of issues related to it's difficult to understand, like, from the first time, especially for those who didn't work on proposal writing before. They will find it a little bit difficult and confusing. That's why we will try to make it as easy as possible, and also we will try to answer your questions, whether today online, or we could also speak on LinkedIn individually with you, or on the group. So I'll be happy to share with you the presentation, and let's start. For those of you who attended the last week, or followed the or viewed the video, we started to talk about logical framework, but because we had to talk a little bit about the objectives, so we had to stop in certain points, so that we give more time for the logical framework this week. So session 7 will be all for logical framework. As we always say, you need to ask why, because if you understand why, then the answer will be always your objective, and also the real outcome you want to make it happen. So always ask why for anything. For the session 7 objective, I hope by the end of the session, every one of you will be able to understand the different components and the related, like the logical sequence of the different components of the logical framework, and also develop all parts of the logical framework, starting from outcome, outputs, risk and mitigation measures, indicators, targets, verification methods, and activities. I still remember when I started working on proposal writing, the most difficult part was the logical framework. I still remember that it was really difficult for me to understand how to do the freezing, how to start writing the objective and outcome, output, and the different parts. So hopefully we will try to clarify as much as we can, and then we give examples also. This is our project proposal outline. And as I mentioned, today we will be on the logical framework. Activities and work plan are still considered part of the logical framework, but we will focus more on logical framework as like a unit or a separate part of the proposal. Of course, we talked about this last week, but I will have to go and review it very quickly. We already talked about the problems tree for 2 weeks now. Also, we will mention it today because it's actually how the logical framework is coming, or where logical framework is coming, and how it is interconnected with the problems tree. So when we analyze the problem, we will have main problem. We will have target groups, like the 3 here, or 4 or 5, like the problem positions, the involved groups or factors, the effects on these factors, and also the main problem will be harms and of direct beneficiaries, and then we will have the impact on the society. The main causes here of the problem will become the activities when we talk about logical framework. And this is how we do the problem analysis, and this is the problem tree. It's like a kind of framework. As we mentioned here, that we have the center of the target is always the beneficiaries. The project objective and outcomes are usually freezed, really, I mean written usually for the beneficiaries. So if we understand the beneficiaries, then the project objectives will be related to them, and also the outcome will be related to them. And then the beneficiaries has like I mean the outer lines of these circles. We have the first circle or outline is the families and communities. The second circle will be for service providers, and the third circle will be the service facilities. And if we continue the circles, we will have, for example, the systems, the technologies, the laws, policies, anything related to the government work. So when we develop the project outcome and also the outputs, we will consider that the outputs will be for the three outer circles, and the outcome will be for the central target. Let's see, like the main problem of in the problem 3 become main objective. As we mentioned here, the involved groups became the specific objectives, but also they became the, like these effects on these factors. The effects will become outputs. The damage of the affected people, when we help them, we will fix the damage. So if the damage is fixed, then it will be the outcome. Also the impact on society that was as a big damage, then it will be the impact of the project. If every cause here, every related causes will be the main activity. These are kind of logical sequence of events related to like the relation of the problems tree and the logical framework, or sometimes we call this the theory of change. This is the theory of change. We talked about it a lot. The problem is usually written like this. Then we have problem, we have inputs, which are going to be the activities or the main components, the activities. And then the outputs, we have it here. Then we have the outcomes and then impact. Of course, for the outcomes, it could be one, it could be two. Like we could even make it one outcome. It's always like this. And as I mentioned the last week, if you reviewed the theory of change of DFID, which is Department for International Development, this is a big donor or United Kingdom Agency for International Development, UK8, usually use this way of theory of change. So usually we write the problem like this, then inputs, outputs, outcomes, and impact. This is exactly how big donors are visualizing or viewing the theory of change. And it's actually the logical framework. So if we see here the inputs, I mean, if we talk about the outputs, outcomes, impact, they are already part of the logical framework. Inputs will be the activities. As you can see here, 3 rows will be the activities. They were inputs in the theory of change, while the 3 branches, they are the outputs, and also the 3 leaves will be the outcomes. The 3 fruits will be the impact. If you see here, that we are talking about indicators, we are talking about targets, we are talking about means of verification, risk, and assumptions. I will talk more about them in the next slides, but just to give you an idea before we move, that every part of the logical framework has, like for example, the outcome has indicators. I call them questions. So if you ask yourself, what is the indicator? The indicator is a question, and we will talk about it. Like it is a question, for example, what is the number of teachers trained? Only we remove what is, so it becomes number of teachers trained. The targets are the answer. So if we ask number of teachers trained, here the target we might say 100 teachers. And the means of verification or verification method, it will be, for example, what is the document that has this answer? It will be, for example, the training report. The risk and mitigation, we will talk about them. So these are the main components of the logical framework. Maybe you will find some logical frameworks for some donors that has some differences, but in general, these are the main components. Whenever you hear about logical framework, always remember these components. Only for the impact, sometimes there are no risks and mitigation, so it's usually left like empty. So it's like this. So logical framework, we have the impact indicators, targeted numbers. Maybe you could see target only, and then we see verification method. Outcome, we have outcome indicators. So as you can see here, we have indicators that are dedicated to impact. We have indicators only for outcome, and we have their target, the verification methods, and assumption and risks. Output indicators, target, verification method, assumptions. Activities, the same. If we start to talk about like each one of them, I will talk about them very quickly, and maybe we will give examples, and we could go to Portal and try to I will show you how to write a logical framework using Portal. At the same time, we will have many questions today. So today I will be available for many questions. Yes, impact. Usually the impact is occurring is happening after the end of the project. So for example, if we are going to implement WASH project, water sanitation hygiene project, usually the impact is going to be decreased acute watery diarrhea in areas where water sanitation and hygiene facilities were improved. So are we going to see acute watery diarrhea like decreased during the project life cycle? This might happen if the project is very long project. For example, if the project is 3 years or 5 years, and we improved WASH facilities in the first year, then maybe before the end of the project, we will have the impact happening. But usually, whether it's development or humanitarian project, we see the impact after that. Decreased rates of malnutrition among under 5 children and lactating, under 5 children, lactating and pregnant women in targeted areas. So usually malnutrition is also decreased, but after the end of the project, maybe before the end, but still to see the whole community is improving, or the whole malnourished cases are decreased and becoming to at normal rates. This will be mostly by after the end of the project. Here, if it's like an education project, we will see improved literacy in the targeted areas. For example, if we are implementing a project to make sure that everyone on the targeted districts or areas or villages are having education, they are going to school, whether they are girls or boys, young men and young women. At the end, we will after a few years, maybe 6 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, we will have all the community able to read and write. So all of them will be literate, not illiterate. The outcome usually is the change. It's a little bit tricky sometimes. Impact is similar to outcome sometimes, so never worry. Usually it's like there are similarities, but in general the outcome is a change that should happen during the project life cycle. So we need to make sure that this outcome or the change that happens is actually done or actually happening because of the project. So this is really important, and usually the outcome is concerned of the outcome is usually happening to the beneficiaries, mainly the beneficiaries. So the outcome examples, we will have these examples. We will have 5,000 children and women's psychosocial status have been improved. So as you can see here, we don't see that for example, two psychosocial support centers providing the services for children and women. This is output. But here we see that already we will have, or already we had 5,000 children and women receiving the psychosocial support in Antakya, for example. This means that this is the outcome we want to achieve. While here we see that, for example, this number 2,500 something people in 14 targeted villages of Benghazi have an easy access to clean drinking water at 15 liters per person per day. So if we see these people from these villages in this area are already having clean drinking water and safe sanitation, then it means that the outcome is happening. Just to give you more insights here, usually for the outcome, usually you have the number of beneficiaries done in the beginning or at the beginning. So usually you write the number of beneficiaries, and usually if we are talking about this number or this number, we sometimes some donors they want the number, like we say how many girls and boys, for example, or how many children and how many women. For example, here, how many men, women, and children, how many men, women, girls, and boys benefited from the project. In general, we need to write the number of beneficiaries at the beginning of the outcome. And also, you need to make sure that we are talking about it as if it's like something that has already happened. Even if I am still at the beginning of the I'm still planning for the just writing the proposal, but when we write the outcome, we write it as if it's already happened. So for example, we see here improved, and here we see have already, like it's as if it's already happening. So these people have an easy access. The same for outcome. The outcome is actually how can we link the outcome to the problem? For example, if the problem of the project was that 5,000 children and women in the capital city of Sana'a need psychosocial support services because of the war, we will say that the outcome will be 5,000, the same number, 5,000 children and women. Psychosocial support status have been improved or have improved after receiving psychosocial support services in the capital city of Sana'a. So as you can see here, here it was that this number needs psychosocial support, but here we are already seeing that their psychosocial is status is already improved. This is the outcome. The output. The outputs are the effects that mainly happens to the targeted groups or groups responsible for the problems and not the beneficiaries of the project. The output examples are 20 teachers, 20 teachers and education staff with improved capacity to provide quality education and life skills. So let me start from the beginning here. Outputs are the effect that happens to the target groups, not the beneficiaries. This needs to be clear, because if the change or the effect that happens to the beneficiaries is the outcome, but the things that is related to the target groups or the factors that is affecting them, then this is the output. Output examples, for example, if we are talking about education, we will have the beneficiaries are girls and boys, while the target groups, like the groups that are affecting boys and girls, are teachers, communities, families, maybe the education system, schools. So all of them, we will, if we are going to target them, we will make them outputs in the logical framework. So we will have 2,000, 200 teachers and education staff with improved capacity. They already having improved capacity to provide quality education and life skills. Here we are talking about the classrooms. We are seeing that 20 semi-structured classrooms or temporary learning spaces at 10 targeted schools supported and rehabilitated. You could find here, you could see here that we are talking like in past tense, like we are in the past tense, so it's already supported, already rehabilitated. Even if we are in the beginning, we consider, when we write, we consider like the output and outcome as if we are talking about the past. 10 social mobilization of communities and advocacy campaigns on importance of education conducted. So this is an outcome, and see that we see conducted. So we are talking about the past. If you are asking me how many outputs should we write in the project, I would advise you that you need not more than 3 outputs. You need only 1 outcome for every project. If it's a small project, if it's less than, like, let's say $1 million, so you will achieve 1 output, and and 1 outcome. But for the outputs, we need at least 3 outputs. The maximum will be 6 outputs. The indicators. The indicator contains 3 main parts that can be explained as a question, an answer, and a document that contains the answer. So for example, question is the indicator after deleting the word what is. So the indicator is 3 parts: question, answer, document contains the answer. The question is the indicator after deleting the word what is, and it should not contain the answer, because the answer will be separated, and it is usually used like the answer is the target, which is the number that we put like as an answer for the question. And then the verification methods, they are the documents that contains the answer. And they are kind of like some reports, some evaluation reports, activity reports. We will talk more about them. For example, just here we have the hash sign. Like this hash is usually replaced in the indicator. So for example, this is number of health workers. Usually this means number, so it's like the word number of health workers. So we read this number. If we use this sign, then it will be % of beneficiaries. So we usually, like when we develop the logical framework, or when we do our reports, we usually use these signs within each indicator. And then we have this target and then verification method. For example, we will have number of health workers trained in targeted management of childhood illnesses, IMCI. Then we will have how many men, women, boys, and girls, because we are talking about health workers. We don't have boys and girls, so they will be 0, 0. But for women doctors, or women service providers, or men service providers, or men health workers, women health workers, we will end up having 24. What is the evidence that this is done at the end of the project? It's like the donor will ask us to send them the verification method. So we will need to develop by the end of the training. We will need to prepare the training report and its annexes. Any evidence that helps the donor to understand that this activity is already happened and that this indicator is already achieved. In this report, you will mention how many health workers have actually attended the trainings. So for example, if 24 teachers, if 24 health workers attended, this means that in the training reports, you will mention them, you will have evidence, you will have their signs, their names, where the training has happened, what kind of materials that was presented to during the training. And then this will be all the evidence that we call it verification methods. While this a percentage of beneficiaries aware of complaints and feedback mechanism, we will have, as it is percentage, of course, we will not have men, women, boys, and girls. We will have the total percentage. So for example, here, if we read this, we see this is 80%. While here, for the first indicator, we see 24 health workers. So this is representing the question. It was how many health workers trained? What is the number of health workers trained? or how many health workers trained in integrated management of childhood illnesses? The answer is the total, 24 health workers. Here also, what is the percentage of beneficiaries aware of complaints and feedback mechanism? The answer will be 80%. So we aim by the end of the project that, or during the project, we aim that at least 80% of beneficiaries will be aware of the complaints and feedback mechanism. How can we provide the donor with evidence? Because it's percentage, we will have to conduct a final evaluation for the project. And then we will go to the field and we ask beneficiaries, do you know how to complain if there is any problem related to the assistance received? If they say yes, then we analyze how many people they said yes, how many numbers they said people they said no, and then if the people who said yes 80%, then this target is achieved. If they were less, then it was not achieved, and so on. Another question is how many indicators needed when we develop the proposal? How many indicators we need for each logical framework or for each proposal? The answer will be there is no specific number for indicators. So you can add as many indicators as you can, but you should put in your mind that you don't need, like, for example, more than 20 indicators. In the same time, you need to put in mind that you could use an indicator that is representing an impact. You could add an indicator that is representing an outcome, also an output and an activities. And also you need to consider like this way of alignment. So for example, if you review a lot of logical frameworks, you will find out that very few indicators are for impact. Like more indicators will be for outcome, but also the outputs will have more indicators and the activities will have most indicators. So it's like that, like more indicators, like the less you go up within the logical framework. Here is more clarification. For example, how do we develop or how do we write the indicator? Indicators, as we mentioned before, are questions that start with what is the number or what is the percentage. So for example, here, just to make it very clear, what is the number? This is a question, this is an indicator. At the beginning, we ask ourselves, what is the number of individuals received emergency health services? The indicator will be if we deleted what is and we make the sign for the number, then we see number of individuals received emergency health services. What is the number of individuals received food assistance? Number of individuals received food assistance. What is the number of health facilities rehabilitated and still working? Number of health facilities is rehabilitated and still working, and so on. So this is how the indicators are developed. One thing also you need to consider is that mostly we use the past tense. So the verb is used in past tense. So we see here received, rehabilitated, beneficiary satisfaction. It's like we are talking about the past, received, benefited, and so on. Okay. The verification methods, we mentioned before that they are the documents that has the evidence that the activities, the outputs, outcomes are achieved. So usually we need to consider two things. When we develop the logical framework, the verification methods for the indicators that started with number are collected during monitoring activities. So usually it's easy. So these are the kind of verification methods. So we see, for example, distribution report, training report, activity report, project monthly report, project semi-annual report, and so on. You will see when we practice on Portal how it's done. While for the verification methods for percentage indicators are more difficult to collect, because usually it is collected by evaluation activities. And this is the main difference when you hear the word like monitoring or evaluation. What is the difference between monitoring and evaluation? Monitoring is collecting the verification methods for the indicators that started with number, while evaluation is collecting the verification methods for the indicators that started with percentage. So for example, we have post-distribution monitoring reports, we have midterm evaluation reports, final evaluation reports, project final review. So usually we use these kind of sometimes these line reports. Usually these things are difficult to prepare, and sometimes, or it's very rare that the NGO is collecting these reports themselves. It is usually collected by external consultant or external consulting firm, while the verification method of the number indicators are collected by the project staff officers, monitoring and evaluation officers, and project managers. Another thing related to the logical framework, and it's usually asked by many donors, is that to provide assumptions, risks, and mitigation measures. Some of them, they don't talk about assumptions, they just talk about risks and mitigation measures. So just to give you an idea, the assumptions are the external factors we expect to happen, and we actually want these factors to happen, while the risks is the unrealized assumptions. So for example, if the assumption didn't happen, then it becomes risk. For example, we assume that when we implement education project, we assume that the Ministry of Education and education authorities and local authorities are cooperating with us and they will help us to conduct the project. If they didn't support us, if they stopped us, they said no, don't implement the project, then this is going to be a risk. So if the external factor that if there is an external factor that we expect to happen, but we really don't want it to happen, then this is a risk. What should we do if the risks is happen? This is the mitigation measures. So it's the things that we will do if risks happen. Usually we go. This is a good outline taken from a good reference. It's, I think, Australian 8, and it's really easy to understand the difference or how because when you start writing the risks and mitigation measures, sometimes you mention risks that, like, when the donor read it, will understand that you will not be able to implement the project, and this is wrong. So how do you select the right risks to include in the proposal? So you need to ask like this: is the risk high impact? If this risk has high impact on the project, if yes, then will it happen? Unlikely. Then if it will not happen, then do not include in the log frame. If it has not high impact, then don't include it too. But if the high impact risk might happen, then we include in the log frame as an assumption. Sorry. Then we do monitoring the risks and think of ways to reduce it. If we think that for sure it will happen, so the idea is it possible that we redesign the proposal and we change some some parts of the approach we will use? If it is possible to redesign the project, no, then this high risk, the donor will consider the project high risk, and they might reject the project. If we can redesign the project, then we need to add activities, outputs, and rewrite the objective of the project. So this is a kind of giving more elaboration about the situation in the area. For example, the security situation, the authorities will collaborate. like if this is likely to happen. If it's not, we will talk more about it, and we will show how it's linked to the output of within the log theme. Okay, activities. Activities are the tasks we do, the interventions or events we conduct, the services we provide, or the products we distribute to beneficiaries. The required criteria when writing the activity are the following. So we have the following criteria that helps to improve the activities. Usually we start the activities by a present simple tense. So we see conduct, implement, train, rehabilitate, establish, provide, develop, recruit. The activity is better to be is better to be smart. So we need to mention when or the duration of the activity, where it is going to happen, should be specific. If let's see these examples. So for example, we see train, as you see here, it's like starting present simple tense. Train 20 nurses. But it would be more smart if we say how like 10 men, 10 women, or 10 males, 10 females. On infection prevention for 3 days. So you see the duration is mentioned, and it's not just train 20 nurses, and we don't know what kind of training. We mentioned that it's on infection prevention. Here, this activity is good, but we don't know where it is going to happen. So it would be much better to say from 5 health facilities located in that area. So here, for example, conduct 150 direct awareness sessions in 10 primary schools of Thailand sub-district on hand washing. So here it's a smart 150 direct awareness sessions. Also, it is mentioned that this is going to happen in 10 primary schools of the targeted areas, which was Betaland sub-district. And also, we didn't say that it's just direct awareness sessions. They are going to be on hand washing. So it's very clear and limited to hand washing. This week assignment, I mean, for now, we already visited all the different parts of the logical framework. I will need now to just talk about the assignment, and then we will move to Portal. I will show you how to develop the logical framework very quickly and very easy. So what we because many of the participants were not able to participate during the last 2 weeks, and many of them also today. Hopefully, if you are watching the video, please activate your account on Portal365 Patch 1 training. We sent you the email, I think, by the 28th of July. So please go to the email and activate. Start working on your proposal within Portal. And if you couldn't, please talk to us on LinkedIn. We will go together. We will conduct like a Zoom meeting, and we will show you how to go and how to work on Portal 365. Thank you so much for now. Let me share Portal 365 with you and start developing a logical framework together before we end up this session. So here now I am already in Portal 365, the Batch 1 account. If you see here, we have many programs that we add from here. I will show you, for example, this is the education program. In the education program, we try, like we already have the strategic objectives. This is not related to this is like related to the whole NGO. But here we start the project objectives. We have like these symbols. And they are all smart objectives. We have outcomes, like just one here. We have outputs. We have at least like 5 or 6 outputs. We have symbols for risk and mitigation. This is like, for example, the risk. For example, all teachers in the targeted schools ask for incentives. How we will do the mitigation? We will only displace teachers and volunteers. Teachers are going to receive the incentives and so on. So we write such things. We prepared it like here we have number of indicators, at least 55 education indicators prepared and ready. We have the verification methods that are usually used by NGOs when they apply for proposals, and we have sample activities and also M&E activities. Here we will go to the proposal. So for example, if we started to add a proposal very quickly, support education in Lithuania, for example, a donor, let's say UNICEF, the deadline, let's say that the deadline to submit this project is going to be maybe the 10th of September. Currency will be US dollar. The location will be Lithuania. Maybe we can change this. Let's say support education in, yeah, it's okay. Let's keep it Lithuania. So location in Lithuania, start date. The start date should be after, we said here the deadline is the 10th of September. So usually the start date should be after that. So we assume that this project is going to start on the 1st of October and will end after 1 year. So it will be on 30th of September 2021. Next, the project is going to be all education. So this is education test. Let's see education here. It will be 100% education. Next, are we going to have users in charge? If we are going to limit the users that are able to see and work on the proposal, we will see user in charge. But here I will make it available for everyone, and I will see. Okay, now we have the proposal like opened for us, and we can work on it. Just to look and make sure that it's already here. So this is support education in Lithuania. We don't need to write anything here. The summary will be done only at the end after we understand everything related to the project. We will move directly to the logical framework. Here is the link with program strategic objectives. So for example, we can link the project with the NGO strategy. So we can see it's linked like this, for example, and then we save. We like the project objectives, we can write new objectives here, or we can use if we have like samples here. So for example, we might use this to increase the access. It is already copied here and under the title. We can still change the number. So we might say 9,000 children, and instead of 5,000 we will make it 4,500. 4,500 girls. Support to increase the access of 9,000 children to quality education and life skills, including psychosocial support and basic education in safe and protective learning environment for adolescents and children for 24 months. So this is kind of smart objective. We could still add, but I will advise everyone not to have more than 3 objectives. So I could still use this and change on the freezing here. Maybe I could use another one and so on. So this is how the objective is developed. Now we will go to the outcome. So here we have already one outcome. For example, we talked about 9,000 children in the objective, so it needs to be changed here. So we can see here 4,500 girls of IDPs and host communities from 2 districts of let's say Vilnius, enrolled to a child-friendly school supported by project to provide emergency education for child-friendly education during the school year of 2021 and see. So this is the outcome, and maybe we can still do some changes of maybe we can try here of refugees and host communities. Let's see if it's changed. Yes, it's already changed. It's cool. So now we have already our outcome, and then now we see add output. So we will go here and select output. So for example, we will see that we will train 106 teachers. Maybe you can see 100 teachers, 50 men, 50 women, receiving incentives for ensuring quality education is provided to refugees and most at-risk students in the semi-structured temporary learning spaces at the targeted schools. For risk and mitigation, maybe we can see that all teachers in the targeted schools ask for incentives. We will see that only teachers working with refugees and volunteer teachers are going to have the incentives. So we need to do see from here, and then we see the output, and we have here the risks and mitigation measures. Okay, then now we can add indicators. We can select one of this drop list, but also we can write new ones. So for example, if I want to write new indicator, I can start writing number of students. But as you can see here, we write and we have many options. So I could select one of these. So for example, from psychosocial support, maybe I could still write number of refugee students. Refugee students benefiting from psychosocial support. Then I see here 0 because we are talking about students. Then we say here 400, 4,500, 4,500. The total is 9,000. And then the verification methods will be activity report. Maybe we can also still select another one, training report. Let's see, maybe we can see project final report. So as I mentioned before, that the indicator has 3 parts: a question, what is, for example, if we added what is the number of refugee students benefiting from psychosocial support? Let's say benefited from psychosocial support. This is the answer, 9,000 and 4,000, how many boys, how many girls, and this is the evidence or the documents that has the answers. We will find this question and the information related to the students on the activity reports, the training reports, and the project final report. Then we see. Here we will see the number of beneficiaries, and here we will see the verification methods we selected from the list, and we can still do some changes if we want. Okay, let's add more indicators. We can select this indicator, number of awareness sessions on the importance of education conducted. I will use only total, because in the previous one it was about beneficiaries, how many students. Here I can see that it's only total. So how many awareness sessions are we going to implement on the importance of education? Maybe 150, let's say, awareness sessions will be conducted. The verification methods will be project final report, maybe monthly report, awareness sessions reports. So we have the question, the answer, and this is the documents that has the answers, and see. Here now we will add activities. For example, we will conduct 10 community mobilization activities, maybe community mobilization. I think, let me see. Let me try to change. We have a problem here. That's okay. We will find a way. Okay, campaigns, mobilization, operational campaigns. Okay. So I can change here. Okay. Okay, this is, we have this. Let's try another activity. Conduct 100 community awareness sessions. We can select as many activities as we can, and we can still change on like many of them, and so on. So depending on like all the activities that we have here, they should be related to the indicators, and they should all contribute to achieving the output. The output should contribute to achieving the outcome, which is at the same time is going to make the objective achieved. So this is how the logical framework is developed in Portal 365. When you go to beneficiaries, because we already added indicators and we mentioned the number of beneficiaries, you find out that it's already moved here. So here we can see beneficiaries by district. We can see, for example, Calvario district. Let's say, for example, the percentage will be 50%. So this is already 50% of number of boys and girls, and so on. And also by type, we will have by type, host communities will be, for example, 50%, and so on. So we can keep working on it. Here, for example, the age group, all the beneficiaries will be less than 18, so it will be 100%. That's how we do the beneficiary calculation in Portal 365. I will go back to the logical framework, and I think I will end up like talking about the logical framework here, because I know it's not easy to explain it like in one session. So I will stop sharing the the system, and I will open I will stop, like you were all muted. So if anyone has a question, please, you can, okay, allow person to unmute himself. So you can mute yourself and ask. If you have a question, you can unmute and ask. So I will be happy to answer all your questions. Okay, here we have a question. Okay, good evening, Abdullah. We have a question from Fatima. Is it necessary to put targeted number in the outcome? Yes, Fatima. When you write an outcome, you need to be smart. Usually, you need to have smart outcomes, smart outputs, smart objectives, and smart smart activities. Or everything should be smart. So usually when you write an outcome, you need to write the number of beneficiaries in the beginning, and then you, for example, 100 teachers trained on modern learning methodologies or modern teaching methodologies. Or we could say 10 schools, when we talk about outputs, also we see 10 schools rehabilitated. We can see that 1,000 families, 1,000 families attended awareness sessions. So usually the outputs, the outcomes, usually we start with the number of beneficiaries, and then we end up like writing the last part of the freeze. Abdullah has a question. Do I have to put the indicators inside the proposal, or they are just case for the NGO to observe and the progress of a certain project? Abdullah, usually the indicators are the heart of the project, so you need to include them. The logical framework, at all costs, like all part of the logical framework, should be included. And usually, the most important part of the proposal is the logical framework, and of course indicators are the most important part, because usually, just to give you more idea, indicators are the questions, as we mentioned, but they are not the questions that you will ask yourself. They are usually questions that will be used by the donor to ask you. So when you write the indicators, you are talking to the donor, you are giving them the questions. So as if you are saying, you donor, you will ask me these questions, and I will answer you about the target. I will give you an evidence, the verification methods as an evidence that it's already achieved. That's how, like, the mentality around logical framework, indicators, targets, and verification methods. So they should be included. Nada, what about background, which is before logical framework and after the cover? Nada, maybe you didn't attend the first session. It was session number 5. If you go to session number 5, please see the video. We talked about it, and we already sent the materials. If you have more questions about them, I will be happy to answer for sure. But please watch session number 5. Okay. So in session number 5, we talked about the name of the project. We talked about situation analysis, background situation analysis, problem analysis and needs assessment, and how we do the justification of the grant, like the grant request justification. Yes, we have a question from Ahmad. Is there possibility to change the session time to another time at night or later? Ahmad, actually, I noticed that many of the participants are having difficult times to attend, and I started to watch this like more during the last 2 weeks. I'm going to suggest that we could stop for 2 weeks to review what we have achieved, because as you mentioned, as you can see that during the last 7 weeks, I didn't have enough time to meet with every one of you. So I suggest that we stop at this point on the logical framework, so we could discuss on the LinkedIn group. I can talk to every one of you individually during the next 2 weeks. We can talk on Zoom. I can explain to you what like the different parts, the things that you didn't find like clear enough. This is one thing. The other thing is that we will discuss again the time, because if many people are not able to participate, and because as you can see, not all the participants are attending on time, because now they are relying on the videos. Many of them, they say that we are really busy to attend now, but we will watch the videos, and they start to act after the videos. So I think we need to start discussing that. Maybe I could have another question on LinkedIn group, and then let's see if we all agree on another good time. Maybe later, maybe on the evening or anything. Yes. Do you have any other questions related to inputs, outputs, outcomes, anything? I'm sure. Okay, please check your LinkedIn messages. Okay, Abdullah, I will. I've sent you some questions. Okay, Abdullah, I will make sure to answer all your questions, and sure we will talk on Zoom together to clarify all your questions. Bassam, when I start writing the proposal, do you always start writing the log frame first after detect problem statement and before the rest of the parts, need assessment, summary, and justifications? So Bassam, usually it depends on your experience. Like for example, when I start writing a proposal, I start like after I create a proposal, like I decide the name, and then I move directly to the logical framework and budget. That's how I do it. And of course, because like most of the projects we are doing, we are already like we already understand the beneficiaries. We understand what the like what is expected to present to the donors and also to the beneficiaries. But also, if it's like a big project, usually we try to collect data before we start writing. In general, you write the logical framework and the different parts of the project. When you receive the needs assessment, then do the modifications needed. Try to correct the numbers, make sure that everything in the proposal and budget is aligned with the needs with the need assessment. So you don't need to wait for the need assessment at all. For the project summary, you need to write it at the end for sure, but all the other parts you can write them like in advance. Before the rest, yes. Usually the needs assessment is helping us to be more precise, but it doesn't prevent us from building the proposal or developing the proposal. Let's say, for example, I still remember on 2018, I wrote a proposal for one NGO. It was $700,000. So we developed all parts of the proposal, and the need assessment was still going on. But once we received the need assessment, we had to change the number of teachers because, for example, we were putting 100 teachers, and then we realized that the teachers that will receive incentives or trainings were 109, so we changed the number. The beneficiaries, we were putting 10,000 beneficiaries, and then we changed them to 7,000 beneficiaries. So it depends, like the need assessment helped us to decide the locations, in which sub-district, in which villages, in which schools are we going to work, how many teachers, how many schools, how many classrooms are we going to build, how many school bags, school bags and stationaries are we going to distribute for students, boys and girls. So the numbers are usually decided after we collect information from the field. This is very important. But in general, you like most of the donors, they have already standardized activities, tasks, and indicators. So you could just develop most of the parts, And then once you get new information, try to change and update the proposal before you submit. Yes, as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm open today for more questions. You can talk if you want. If you want to ask, you can unmute yourself and talk. I'm really happy that you could make it and attend today. Thank you very much, all of you. I'm sure it's difficult to participate at this time because many participants talked to me and mentioned that it was really difficult for them to participate, which means that you are trying to dedicate a lot of your time. Thank you so much. Let's keep communicating on LinkedIn as long as you don't have more questions. Please talk to me on LinkedIn. Try to organize, try to have a time limited for yourself so that I can answer and I answer your questions. So please don't hesitate to talk to me on LinkedIn, please. And many thanks and have a good evening.